Hi, good morning or afternoon. I hope everyone is doing well today. Thank you for joining us today at the Power Automate Your Data Imports. I'm very excited to be here with Ashley Moose and to be sharing a project that we worked on together. So we're going to kick this off with some introductions. Ashley, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Haley. Thank you. My name is Ashley Moose. I'm a principal business consultant here at Blackbaud. I'm working mostly within professional services and our success engineering team, and get the lovely pleasure of helping you all connect your Blackbaud solutions to Power Automate and build out some amazing workflows like Haley has done.
Thanks, Ashley. So I had the pleasure of working with Ashley for the first time when I was presented with the 2023 Vision Award. That was my introduction to Power Automate, and I've come quite a long way since then. And so I'm ready to dive in and share with you guys what we've been doing. But first, we're going to just take 1 minute to pause so that I can share with you a tradition that Alvernia does. And we stop in before every meeting and presentation and every class, all the professors do this, to just take a moment for contemplation, which is one of our core values. So today, I'd like to share this mission moment with you. To learn is to change how you think. Next, I just wanted to share with you some of the resources that I have found to be very helpful for me on my journey, my Power Automate journey. And of course, BB Dev Days that you're here. So that's a great step. And the community, though, if you take one thing away from this conference, because we're all busy and we all get really excited and we get back to our days, and it may not happen that you roll out all these exciting things that you've learned today. But if you do one thing, I'm going to encourage you to please join the Blackbaud Power Automate community, the Sky Developer community, because that's where you will be able to ask questions and connect with other people who are face the same challenges that you face in your work every day. Okay, so today we're going to talk about why we chose to automate our import process. And so we're going to start with the problem. And when we talk about the problem, I want to frame this in that we had a third-party tool that we were using to import data into our system. And it was working pretty well for us. Some things that we actually didn't realize until we started automating ended up being easier now. So some of the things that we were facing, though, is that the cost of those tools continued to increase. And if it was a little increase every year, it would have been probably not that noticeable, but it started to become 20% every year. And then that company that we were using was rolling out a new product that they were encouraging all their customers to move to, which is wonderful. I'm glad that organizations are trying to stay up with the products that we're using, and it's absolutely necessary. So what I did is I just did a quick ROI. I said, okay, over the next 5 years, if I signed a 5-year contract, because I just signed my 5-year contract with Blackbaud, I just renewed, over the next 5 years, how much would it cost me if I continued to see this 20% increase? Well, it was going to be nearly $13,000 for us to keep the tool that we were currently using. If we upgraded to the new tool that they were offering, that would require some work and connection and do everything, that was going to cost us closer to $22,000 over the next 5 years. Automating our data imports using Power Automate, I was able to contract to work with Ashley for a one-time contract fee of $7,500. So ultimately saving me between $5,500 and $14,000 over a 5-year period. So for us, that is why we chose to move forward with the Power Automate, because we knew that solution was going to last us for 5 years and it was going to save us some money. So, we talked about the solution a little bit here. Another thing that was important to us is that we were giving our data management team an easier interface. So the tool that we were using previously, it would really lock down your entire database. You couldn't do anything else. I couldn't also be running reports. I couldn't also be making data updates or doing anything else in the database system. I was locked in, and I was locked in until that entire import was completely completed. So what we found is with the Power Automate, though, is that we're able to, within our NXT experience, we're able to manage those constituent matching and any updates that are needed, as well as allow the rest of our team to support that work. And if we need to take a break and somebody walks in our office and needs an emergency list, we can stop where we are and we can do that work, or we could do it simultaneously. And while that list is running, I can still be processing information in another window. So it really has changed how our team is interacting with the imports. And so it's made it a lot simpler. We can collaborate and multitask. And some of our more complex imports were simplified. Where are my slides? Here we go. All right, so today, one of the imports I'm going to share with you today is our Give Campus import. And I am going to let Ashley take a moment here to share one of her really creative ways that she came up with to kind of we have two pieces to this specific process. So because of our business process needs, it's important to note here that Give Campus does offer a way, I think for an additional fee, to have the individual gifts imported into your Razor's Edge database. However, the way that works, we explored that option, and the way that works actually didn't fit with our business process, which we'll talk a little bit more later. So what we did is we kind of chopped this into two processes. One is the constituent match process, and two is creating that actual gift batch. So because we as an organization choose to enter those gifts at the time that the dollars have been deposited, and we want our gift batch to match that deposit report, we have to wait for that, honestly. Our giving team is never thrilled with that, but that's how it works. So we actually have a little bit of time beforehand. And in the past, when we get emails into our inbox, our data entry team would go through those emails, have our NXT and manually look up these constituents and make any updates that were needed from the information in that email. And so this is where Ashley's creative idea really to trigger this flow really is super impactful. And I'm going to let her share a little bit more about that.
Thank you. Okay. Let me share my screen. All right, so yeah, I'm sharing the entire screen here, so sorry for those initial pop-ups. But what Haley and her team were receiving initially was an email that looked like this. And don't worry, this is just a bunch of sample data here. You see Minnie Mouse, so no worries about anything confidential getting shared. But so, we saw this email, we knew the data was here, but whenever you actually look at the data, it was just coming in a weird way from kind of what you see on that initial trigger of what we were using was when an email is received and then that's going into like a specific folder. So we're able to isolate that into that when an email is received in this folder. So what we found though in looking at the output, sorry for having that jump back up to all of us. So we have when this email comes in, when we're looking at the output, it was just this giant body of HTML text. So I know very little about HTML. I think what I do know is probably what I've learned from everyone else about how to spruce up my notification tables. From that, I have, a little bit of familiarity of knowing where the BR break was indicating that there was a space in the email. So as we looked into this a little bit more, we were able to identify where all of these are the individual lines where if we're looking at the email, it has those details. But what we're seeing over here where there's a double BR, double break, that's the double spacing in the email. So what we're looking at whenever we actually see like between Hi Heather onto Minnie Mouse. So then within the flow, we were able to say to actually take that incoming chunk of text, split it out based off of the double breaks, based off of the HTML coding, which gave us this, and then skip that, take it a little further, and then just get our individual lines. Then within these individual lines, one of the important key pieces that was stored in here was this donation ID. So that was the way that we were able to store it and know that this ID was going to match back to a record whenever that deposit file came in. Because the constituents coming in here, they may have matched to existing constituents. They may have been a new constituent. We didn't really know that at this point. So we added all those donation IDs in as aliases. So when the deposit file comes back in, can match against the alias, know it's going to the correct record, and then just delete that alias so it doesn't have to be used ever again.
Thank you, Ashley. It's so exciting to be able to work with people who, what was it that Wendy was saying today? Co-conspirators. I love that concept. And I am so fortunate. Again, community, you get to meet all those co-conspirators. So, all right. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to share with you all our quick video that demonstrates the GiveCampus import.
Hey guys, here we are on Mickey's record, and I want to demonstrate for you our GiveCampus donor import process that we created using Power Automate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to kick off this flow from our Outlook because we receive a notification every time a donor gives us a gift. And so I am manually dropping that into my GiveCampus folder, but I would like to point out that you can create a rule right here within Outlook that automatically will drop into GiveCampus folder anything from GiveCampus. You can set up rules in different ways. So I don't actually have to do that every time, which makes this a truly automated process. Now, something that happens, we have a separate flow set up that runs daily. And so if that does happen, because remember, I didn't manually drop those in there. So that is being automated into that folder. Now, that means I don't necessarily see them every day. But every day, if there is somebody who needs to be managed, I'm going to get a notification that says, hey, you have some GiveCampus donors to manage. And notice I'm using that same daily flow to give me the information about all of the imports that I have set up now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to hop over. So I can actually use this link to go in and manage that donor. But I also wanted to point out that in addition to having this email that goes out and notifies the gift management team that something needs to be reviewed, I also have a button for managing those GiveCampus updates here right on my homepage in NXT. And that's really helpful because when we have big giving days, and we have lots of gifts coming in all at once. This allows more than just one data management person managing all of these updates. We can have our entire team working to get this information in and get it recorded. All right, so here we have 3 categories here. And while this is loading, I'm just going to point out that each one of these adaptive cards takes a few seconds to load. So in later iterations of my imports, I actually just got rid of these screens. I realized I didn't actually need them, and that just taking it directly to the screen where I'm comparing the information was good enough. So this is usually the space where I start now. Now, I want to point out the column here on the left. This is the information for the constituent that the Power Automate flow identified as a possible match. This is the information that is on that record in RENXT. And then here in the middle column, this is the information that we were provided by the donor. Now, in this particular flow, I'm giving the data management team the option to make updates to the RENXT system from the donor provided information. Now, if I look through here, I don't need to update the name or the email address, but it does look like I have a different mailing address. So I'm going to go ahead and update that mailing address. My constituent code looks okay, and I'm going to hit update. We'll talk about match to a different constituent later. So now I have gone ahead and matched Mickey, and I've made some updates. So we're going to go ahead and go over to Mickey's file. We're going to refresh his screen. And what you'll notice, first thing, is that his address has been updated. And we also have this Disney listed as the former address. And it also has an end date. So notice that the end date was added. It's no longer listed as primary, and its type was updated to former. So that's really helpful. Now we have that new home address laying there. Down here, we have an action that was added that's stating, hey, this constituent gave a gift and we dropped the donation ID onto the record. Here's the information that came in from the donor. Here's the information that the data management team chose to update. All right. And then as an alias here, we have our donation ID. Now, this is important because this is how the next part of this process is going to match the gift itself to this constituent. So there's nothing we need to do other than drop our deposit report directly into our OneDrive folder for Give Campus deposits. Now, I'm going to pause here and just chat a little bit about this. So at our organization, our process is we don't actually record the gifts from a third-party gift processor until the deposit hits our account. So we're recording it from our deposit report. That may be different for your organization. Another important piece that I want to point out is that we're using the OneDrive to store this information. There is very likely going to be some sensitive information in something like a deposit report, or, for example, an alumni report. We have some alumni information is going to be housed in there that we wouldn't necessarily want just anybody in our organization to have access to. So in order to add a little more security, we use the OneDrive here, and then I have to directly grant permission to the people who we allow to manage this. All right, so let's go ahead and go over here, because that final, just dropping that file directly into that OneDrive folder, what that did is it took that gift ID, the donation ID, it matched it to Mickey, and it created this gift batch. Guys, isn't this awesome? So now, if I had 50 donors in that gift batch, it created all those gifts right here in this gift batch. Now it's just ready for our team to review and add any additional information, link to a proposal, whatever you need to do. We're going to do that right here in the gift batch, and then we'll make that approved. One other thing that you may want to notice is that when we go back to Mickey's record, I'll go back to Mickey's record one more time. All right, so then we're going to notice that that donation ID was removed, should have been removed from his account. I think I forgot to do it when I was testing earlier, so there might have been multiple on there. So, but it does get removed from his record once that gift batch is completed. And that is our Give Campus import.
All right, so hopefully you guys found that as exciting as I did. I still get chills every time it works. So here I wanted to give you guys a view of some of the other imports that we created during this project. So we now use this to import new alumni, and that does include the relationships and make it connecting those relationships within our system. We also add alumni affinity, and the only reason why that's a separate import is because the alumni affinity file comes as a separate file. So I had to split that into two. I will note that alumni process in our previous tool took about 6 separate import passes in order to get all that information in. So that is one of the spaces there. Our alumni imports have been significantly simplified for our team. And then we have our anticipated graduates, those who qualify for graduation in the fall, those who've applied for graduation in the spring. So our anticipated graduates get converted to expected graduates later on in the spring. And then we have our first year parents. And what I'm super excited to share with you guys and is posted in the community for you is the basic individual constituent import. And I worked really hard to make that as generic and usable for everyone as possible. And I'm just really hope that you guys can use that to understand the concepts behind what we're doing here. So now I want to leave some space here for questions and answers. I'm going to go ahead and share the next slide so that you guys you connect with me directly on LinkedIn, connect with me in the Blackbaud community. I have some additional resource links here, and you can drop into that docs section of the session here and download these slides so that you have these to follow up on later. But please drop any questions into the question and answer section over here, and I will, between Ashley and I, maybe we can get to answer some of these. So Christina, do you have to use a different merchant service account for gifts to not automatically get, oh, it jumped. Hold on. To not automatically get batched when a gift is made? That is a good question. I'm not entirely sure if I'm following you. So does that mean that are you asking if we can batch gifts coming in using donation forms in NXT separately? I'm not really following you there. I can tell you that Give Campus does use a different payment processor, which is why we have to import those. I can tell you that when we use, for example, the Blackbaud payment terminal, we have to put those into we have to add those into the system, but those are using the Blackbaud terminal, so or payment processor, BBMS. So I hope that answered your question. All right.
And I think another one in here for Brenda. Haley did hire me on as a consultant to help her be able to build these automations, but she did the majority of the work herself. So I was really just there in the beginning phases, helping answer a couple questions, troubleshoot, brainstorm ideas. But once we kind of got through that initial phase, an initial import or process with like the Give Campus file, everything else, it was just all Haley. So, that is one of the benefits here. You're helping to build on those skills and you learn those skills and then you have that so that you can continue to do everything else on your own and you're not dependent on a consultant for every other little iteration or change that you want. And just a quick call out, we are at the 5-minute mark.
Oh, wonderful. So I will continue to answer questions, but if our moderator wouldn't mind if you guys would please take that survey. It really helps Blackbaud to know what kind of sessions you guys are most interested in. So we're going to launch that survey. And if you please would take a moment to fill out, I think it's 4 questions. I'd appreciate that. All right, let's see. So Rosalind, you mentioned that you use OneDrive to store your information. Is the folder accessible to others on your team? And what happens to that access if you leave your organization? That's a really great question, Rosalind. So something I didn't mention here, and I typically in all of the sessions that I do using Power Automate, I do mention. So this is a very important topic. I originally set up my own institutional email account with a Power Automate license. And I started building flows. I jumped right in, got really excited, jumped right in. Then I realized exactly what you pointed out. What if I leave the organization, right? So very quickly, thankfully, I learned that you want to set up that Power Automate license on an institutional account so that all of these things will live on past your tenure with the organization. And so that is important. So we actually have the whole account for institutional advancement. It has its own OneDrive. So all of that will remain even when I leave. And to answer the question about do others have access to it, they do if I grant it to them. And that is very important when you're dealing with these sensitive information files. So really great question. Thank you for answering that. And by the way, I think we have 2 minutes left. So if I don't get to answer your question here right now, I will reach out to you using through messages, and I will try to answer your questions that way. So Brenda, just to clarify, oh yes, thank you, Ashley, for addressing Brenda's question. And Andrea, could you share a link to the demo video, please? That will be shared in the agenda after usually it takes maybe 24 hours before those videos get posted, but you'll be able to watch this video later. Christina, we talked about that. Damon, how was the link added on the right in NXT to go to the update review page? Really great question. That is an add-in button. And if you read through the documentation, oh wait, Ashley, we didn't put that in there for the basic import, did we?
I was reading the chat. What was the question?
So how do we add that button on the home page? There's lots of resources out there, David. I will see what I can do to find one of the flows that adds one of those buttons in there, but that's through the Sky API. It's an add-in option, and Ashley created a wonderful Microsoft form that will help coach you through how to do that too.
Right. And this, the community post that you shared does include going through the form to create the proper link that you need to be able to do that. There should be other resources out in the community if you search around that reference to that. If you don't see anything, though, feel free to create a new community post and tag me directly, and I can help share some, more targeted resources.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. We're out of time. But thank you again for attending. Please reach out to me in community, reach out to me on LinkedIn, or shoot me a message in Swagoo or whatever this platform is.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.